would take the time when I'm going to the polls to talk to them and talk to them about my grandchildren. That seemed to open it up for them to talk about theirs. Pictures would come out. And really, you can tell it in their hearts and minds that this election was so very important to have done in one election, because it really is about their families. It's really about bringing normalcy back, and it really is about their children and their children's children, their grandchildren too.
The organization, before the election, going around and seeing the main interlocutor, the governors, the director of police, the director of TV station, journalists, the PEC commissioner members, and the DEC members. Everybody was really working hard to ensure that the election will be a success.
Well, these were rather unique elections given the unrest in the eastern regions. And us being stationed in the west, we did see that tension in the east did cast a bit of a shadow across the entire nation.
So as we were going around, we saw, of course, these militiamen from the Donetsk People's Republic, who generally looked like a pretty ragtag bunch of fellows. As we approached election day, they started to intimidate more and more the electoral staff of the district electoral commissions, and they started going in and stealing the voters' lists, stealing the hard drives from the computers, the printers, and so forth.
Many commissions were threatened in the Luhansk region. That's where we worked, and but despite that, they came to work.
There were a couple of incidents that happened in Mykolaiv that day. There were 4 schools that they were threatened that there were mines were put into the schools. Those were evacuated. 3 were evacuated. The fourth school, the people refused to evacuate, said this is a joke. And so after the dogs came and the police came, there luckily was no bomb there. So everybody was fine, and they reopened the polling stations.
Well, I didn't really fear for my personal safety because, number one, I've been doing this kind of work for almost 20 years. So I've been in a lot of similar situations. And also, I knew that we were being well looked after by the mission here, by CANEOM. So I was never in any fear of anything serious happening. But the biggest fear was that we wouldn't be able to carry out our mission.
One of the things we'd actually like to congratulate the people of Ukraine for was the pride, the integrity, the dignity with which they made sure the elections happened.
I think the most incredible thing that we saw was this sense of civic duty and national pride. Many people thought that it was their duty to come out and work on election commissions, do anything they could in a difficult time for Ukraine, to help stabilize the situation.
Oui, il y a une grande différence avec les missions auxquelles j'ai participé auparavant en Ukraine. Entre autres, j'étais là en 2012 à Vinnytsia avec l'OSCE comme observateur long terme. Et je vois une nette différence entre l'élection à ce moment-là, bien que ça ait été une élection parlementaire et aujourd'hui une élection présidentielle. La différence au niveau du travail, au niveau du comportement de tous les membres des commissions était complètement différent.
Not only Ukrainians doing their things, but the international community through Canada and our presence on the ground did provide that legitimacy that they can say to the world that it was a fair, transparent election and it was a successful election.
Oui, les gens étaient très contents de voir les Canadiens ici en Ukraine, surtout qu'on a beaucoup de monde qui participe dans notre mission qui ont des origines ici, mais même tous les membres de la mission étaient vraiment bienvenus.
Very fortunate that everybody was very pleased to see Canadian observers there. When we went through the posts coming into the city, when they heard that we were Canadian observers, they pushed us right through, said, just please go in.
We had done a bunch of DECs and PECs, and we went for lunch in a stolova, in a cafeteria. And then we heard in the background, Kanadze, Kanadze, Kanadze. They said, come over here. He says, are you Canadian? And we said, yes, we are. Well, don't leave. And we were in a hurry to leave, right?
That's right.
And says, okay, okay. And they come out and they bring out this giant Canadian flag that they've been keeping for this occasion since the last elections. And that, we were just choked up, with our dessert and everything, and our eyes started to water. And it felt...
It was a proud moment.
It's a proud moment.
We were able to go to a village about half an hour away from Odessa. And it was wonderful. We watched people setting up. They did all of their paperwork, and then they came in with this bucket of peonies that had been cut from the garden of the secretary. And every time the very first voter who came in got a peony, they were then going to present them to every first-time voter throughout the day. And then they gave us one each because we were their first observers. But I thought that was such a wonderful thing, because in Canada we don't do that. We don't kind of honor first-time voters as a ceremony.
There was a little old lady sitting there watching the exit to make sure that people walked out. She was really happy that this was election day. She had said she had gone through all the turmoil of Maidan, the killings, and she was sad about Luhansk and Donetsk, and so now Ukraine is going to go ahead because they're having the presidential elections, they're here, and she was really, really happy. So she was saying to me with a smile, she says, the future is ours. And as she said that, a teardrop fell from her eye over her cheek, and she just smiled at her, and I thanked her, and I just walked back in.